Welcome to an Epiphany with Tiffany. My name is Tiffany, and I've just had an epiphany. This podcast is all about Christian singles looking for community. Christian dating can be quite a mess these days. I'll share stories from my guests and practical tips for successful love. Dating shouldn't be this hard, right? So grab your favorite snack or drink and curl up with this episode, and you might just have an epiphany of your own. Hey, Epiphany Tribe, it's my birthday and I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I'm going to reflect on 35 things that I have either learned this year or been reminded of. Some of them are serious, some are funny, and some are just plain old Tiffany moments. But I hope that you can relate and maybe even see a little bit of yourself in my year. And I want you to stay around for the end because I am going to discuss the little bit of a shift that I'm going to be doing with my podcast moving forward. So definitely stick around for that. All right. So segment number one. The first thing that I learned this year is that moving 3 times in about 15 months is extremely exhausting. I've learned that sometimes life definitely shakes it up and reminds you that you have to be flexible. And to kind of like tie that into God, the fact that He calls us out of our comfort zones a lot and reminds us that He's got it, no matter how uncomfortable we feel or how chaotic life is. That He is definitely He has a plan. And thing number two was I was reminded that I like to create my own chaos. Because I like to control things. Hi, my name is Tiffany. Anybody else struggle with that? It's, it can be difficult to kind of, live in a consistent like struggle with well, struggle is not the right word. A consistent pattern, I guess, of creating things that seem chaotic because I have fooled myself into believing that I can control that when in reality I'm just causing myself more stress and I need to just kind of sit back and let some of that control go. Um, so yeah. That's a struggle. Pray for me. But number three is growth sometimes looks like being quiet instead of proving a point. I've learned to let life unfold again without over controlling it. And so I was reminded of this when I left Indiana and moved into my aunt and uncle's house for a couple of months. And I was struggling to get a job. It was a whole It was a whole thing. I was crying consistently, and just very, very frustrated because I felt like God had moved me here for a job and then it fell through and then I was applying and it was just this consistent, revolving door of apply, think I'm going to get an interview, don't actually get an interview. I'm going to apply for this job. And it just kept going and going and going. It felt like every day was a new set of disappointment, which was very hard to kind of process through. But my aunt and uncle were very gracious, and were willing to just kind of keep seeing how things unfolded. And then all of a sudden, at the 2.5 month mark, I had a job, had a place to live, had a roommate. It was crazy. That's a different podcast episode that I will go into, but at some other point down the road. But yeah, it definitely was a struggle for those 2.5 months of just feeling so out of control. But yeah, number four actually is the beauty in starting over again. It's not always, easy, but it definitely is refreshing. And I already feel leaps and bounds better here in Texas than I did in Indiana. And that's just God's honest truth. And so I know that this is where I'm supposed to be, even though there's a lot of other stuff that has been difficult about being here and, starting over and all of that. But it's been, it's been really, what's the word? Challenging, but beautiful, I guess is like a great way to say that. Um, and yeah, the next thing is I can be content and still have dreams. I don't have to give up my hope just because I'm grateful for like the spot that I'm in. And so that kind of ties into the podcast and everything that I've been kind of dealing with lately in regards to that. And just battling a lot of, insecurities and imposter syndrome and other things like that. But I'm still content and at the same time still have dreams that I'm definitely like progressing towards and praying through and trying to get to. So yeah. Um, the other thing, the next thing is I may not be where I thought I'd be, which is definitely true. But I'm exactly where God wants me, and that is the hard truth I have been consistently reminded of over the last year of my life. So, um, yeah, and speaking of God's reminders, he's definitely been showing up in a lot of big ways. And so like the next little few things I'm gonna kind of touch on are just different ways that he's been showing up. Um, so I was reminded that God still reigns even in tragedy. Um, that truth definitely never gets old. We've had some different things happen in my family over the last year that have not well, my grandfather passed away, which was pretty tragic. But just a lot of things that have been difficult to kind of transition over the last actually 2 years of me like not living in California all last year when I was in Indiana and then now moving to Texas. And it's been, just some things that we have to adjust to because I'm not physically in California anymore. So, yeah. Um, yeah, and then God is my provider, obviously. But he has not been providing in ways that I've been expecting, but it has definitely been in ways that I need. So that has brought a lot of peace and renewal within that. So it's been great. Um, God's timing is best. And I've actually been to 5 different weddings this year. If you follow me on social media, you've probably already seen that. And each of these friends of mine that I've gotten married, they have all experienced pretty significant length of time of being single. Like they had long waiting seasons. And so as I was going to these different weddings, and some of them I was heavily involved with, and then others I just got to be the guest, which was really nice. And so, yeah, as I'm sitting there and kind of processing through, like, oh, here's the next wedding, and and then hearing their stories and their different testimonies, it was really beautiful to just kind of sit there and thank God and be grateful that I was able to be a small part of and or a big part of these different weddings and these different relationships that have started. And, now they're marriages and they're all moving on to different steps. But, to just kind of see how God worked in each of their relationships there's no other word for it but beautiful. I've cried a lot this year at the different weddings, but yeah, as the cliche says, his timing is perfect, but at the same time, it's not really cliche, it's the truth. So, yeah, to just kind of sit in that was really great and or be reminded of that, I guess. Um, so yeah, the next one is even when I have messed up, God is still forgiving. And I really can't overstate how freeing that is. Because I've felt at a lot of different points over the last like 15 months or so that, oh, I've messed this up again and like not never really like, oh, God's not gonna forgive me, but just oh, here you go again, Tiffany, repeating an old pattern and like, of course, you're not making your goals or like you're not getting to this place that you want to be because you keep screwing up. Like those intrusive thoughts, right, that we all tend to have, and it's really just the enemy attacking our mind, and we have to remember to hold or take those thoughts captive. Whew, words. So yeah, that was a nice little reminder over the last like few months and like probably like 6 months or so um to just kind of be reminded of God's grace in that way. Um the next thing is I don't have to know all the outcomes. Ooh. Some things are meant to be in God's hands and not in mine. And that's just oof. Like that's hard. Um, very, very hard. So yeah, still kind of processing through that one. Um, the next one is waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. Um, Also like within that though, like patience isn't passivity or isn't passive. It's actually preparation. And I know that we hear that kind of stuff a lot from like dating coaches and um or other marrieds who've been with their person for a really long time and they like to preach at us sometimes. Um, and so, we like we'll hear that or some kind of phrasing of that, like, oh, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I guess a platitude, and but I was reminded of that, like I already mentioned, too, with the weddings that I've been to. Um, each of these women weren't waiting. I mean, they were waiting, sorry. They were not passively waiting. They were very active. They were in ministry. They were out doing life with friends. And they weren't just kind of sitting like a bump on a log waiting for their Prince Charming to show up. So within that, the next thing is sometimes God hides you to heal you, and you have to trust the process even when it feels confusing. And I haven't always been a big proponent of like believing in uh like seasons of singleness can be God hiding you. But I've kind of sort of changed my tune a little bit on that just because I've really kind of thought through it and had to kind of sit with um the fact that like sometimes it's not even, it might not even be me that is the one who needs to be hidden. Because I don't know who my future husband is. But I also do know that we're both on very specific journeys that God has us on. And, I have to be reminded that sometimes in those moments where I'm struggling doesn't mean that he's struggling, but, we're both kind of in these different stages until the time that, it's just right, I guess. That sounds a little cliche, but I hope you guys get what I mean. Um, Oh, this is a big one. Rest is not laziness, it's actually stewardship. And I've had to be reminded about how to honor my body and my soul, which is just an everyday struggle anyway. But that it's okay to rest and I don't have to be go, 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 going just because I feel like I need to be busy. It's okay to have days where I don't do anything. I just relax and like read a book or binge watch a show or something like that. Like that's not a problem. Or but resting doesn't even have to be that too. Like resting can be um being with people who bring you life or give you life. And serving can be resting, but like also I feel like that can be a little bit of a caveat. You don't want to be wearing yourself thin. So, um yeah, the next one is God's plan does not need my perfection. It just needs my yes. Which is um can be daunting, but I said yes 2 years ago um to really stepping out into faith and doing this podcast. And then, it's been a battle ever since then. And so right now I am renewing and saying yes and trying to let go and let God just kind of guide me through what this next season looks like. Um, and yeah, while God is always faithful, we have to, or we are continuously learning. So there's there's that. The next thing is some people are for a season, some are for a reason, and that is okay. To not always know why somebody might leave, or you might um not necessarily talk to somebody again, and that's okay. We don't have to know why they left or why um we felt like we needed to leave the situation. It just I'm trying to like figure out how to word this. Um, so yeah, I don't know, because I've had many relationships, friendships where, I've either made the choice to leave because it was toxic or just not healthy or, whatever. And then there was other times where people just up and disappeared from my life. And, I just was reminded that that can happen very quickly. And, it's okay. It really is okay. And I don't have to know why, even though I really want to know why. I don't have to know why. And then within that, like every relationship dynamic, this is the next thing. Every relationship dynamic is different, even if you think you know how people will respond. So, a lot of people know that I like personality tests and like all that kind of stuff. I have a background in psychology. Um, but all of that kind of those kinds of things make me nerd out a little bit. And so I kind of was reminded though recently that just because somebody might fit a specific personality type doesn't mean that they are going to respond the way that I think that they will. And so I need to stop assuming that they are all going to fit into a little box. Um, oh yeah, the next thing is people can still surprise you both in good ways and in bad ways. And yeah, I kind of feel like that just, without going into a really long story, I feel like that kind of sums it up. The next thing is community matters more than convenience. The people who show up consistently are definitely treasures. And again, I have recently been reminded of this. I just had a text conversation with my best friend, ironically, today, um, about a specific situation. And just thanking her for loving me and being there for me and, just kind of being grateful that we've been through the things that we've been through and we can still rem maintain a close relationship, even though now she's married. She is one of the 5 weddings I went to this year. And so, yeah, it just was a really nice conversation to kind of have after some recent events. So, yeah. Within that too, the real ones are here to stay. And it's worth celebrating them. So that is exactly what I did by telling my best friend how much I love her and appreciate her. Um, and also the next thing is not everyone is my cup of tea or a shot of whiskey. And sometimes that can be a relief, like I don't have to be the person for everybody. And that's okay. Like I went to an event couple months back and majority of the people there I didn't know, and it was a whole weekend trip, and it was very freeing in certain ways to not feel like, oh, I have to put on a show or I have to fit into this group. I was able to go and enjoy the people there that I know, and it was great. It was a pretty good time. And within that, the little bit of a lesson was I don't have to impress anyone, which is definitely freedom. I don't have to be a performer. I don't have to fit somebody else's box. I am just me, and that is enough. And the last one for that section is the right people won't make me question my worth. And I definitely need to remember how to look out for them and you know, what they really not bring to the table because I don't really like that phrasing. But just how they present themselves, I guess, is the better way to say that. Um, and yeah, like kind of moving into the next part too, like even within the digital world, like social media isn't everything. Which is super funny considering the fact that I got kicked off of Meta for, 16 days. Those were really long 16 days, y'all. And it was a struggle. I was so upset for many different reasons that I'm just not going to spend the time on telling you right now, but it was a big reminder that like social media isn't everything. Yes, I had lost contact with a bunch of different people, and I had to switch my game plan and like how I was going to market and all of that stuff. But within that, I was reminded that, you know, it doesn't fully matter all the time what I put on social media, or that I don't need to put so much stock in it. Like if I'm not getting likes or not getting comments or whatever, and trust me, that's a continuous ongoing thing. When you're putting yourself out there and like nobody's responsive, it kind of sucks. But that's okay too. So, yeah, like within that too, even in the moments like where I've felt unseen or unheard, I was reminded that my voice still matters and it still needs to be heard. So, that's kind of going to lead into where I'm going to do a little bit of a shift with my branding and what I want to do with this podcast moving forward. But again, more on that shortly. So, as many of you know, also I've been teaching. And something that I've been very surprised about is how later Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because yes, that is who I am teaching, are just so surprising. And, their perspective on life keeps me on my toes, and they're so funny the majority of the time. But, there's some times where I'm like, oh, geez, like, Lord help me, you know? But they are just so funny and they definitely bring a lot of joy to my life. So I'm so, so thankful for them. And yeah, I'm just gonna kind of run through these last few things really fast and then I'll kind of touch on my goals moving forward. So, um, I can miss what was and still be excited for what's next, which is a big thing. The next thing is healing taught me how to love people differently and myself better. Obviously, healing is ongoing process, so that process is still um, ever changing. The next thing is I can be the one who outgrows a space, and that is okay. It's just really hard to kind of grasp that, but it is what it is. Um, the next thing is peace feels weird when you're used to chaos, but it's definitely worth keeping. And that's something that I've had to really kind of struggle with, like I said earlier, with creating my own chaos. What does it really feel like to have peace? And um, the word no is actually protection, not punishment, which I kind of feel like I need to just let everybody sit with that one. I want to hear your thoughts on that thing. So the second to last thing is number 34 is not every open door is a divine one. Ooh. Yeah, that one. That one. Just because it looks like something might be from God doesn't mean that it is. And or he could be just opening a situation or a door, window, to kind of provide a lesson. And yeah, that one was rough. And so, yeah, the last thing though is sometimes I have to just trust that life and growth will all be worked out together by God. And even if I can't see the full picture as to how he's doing it, he's going to figure it out because he already has it planned. And I just have to keep walking and taking those steps. And so that's a perfect segue into the big reveal of what I am going to be doing moving forward. So, if you've been listening to my show at all in the past, you know that I have mostly focused on Christian dating. And I had planned to interview 100 women and was in the planning process of interviewing 100 men. And I had two different series titles called What Men Think and What Women Think. And it was all focused on dating in this modern age and how we struggle with it and that kind of thing. But lately, I have really been feeling like it needs to be a shift to not so much dating focused. That's still important because, those of us who are single and want to find marriage, like that's still going to be something we talk about and topics that are discussed. Um, but really, the big shift is I just want to provide a space for other singles to come on and just have a platform to talk and to be able to present things that they're struggling with or, things that excite them, what ministries they're involved with, just anything really that they want to discuss. And so within that, I am switching my branding up a bit. And so instead of my um, tagline, sorry, let me get the right word here. Instead of my tagline being what it is right now, which is um, Christian dating disasters, lessons learned, and how we can succeed at love, I'm actually going to be shifting to my podcast will still be titled An Epiphany with Tiffany. But my new tagline is going to be Bold Conversations, Christian Singles Take the Mic. And so I really just want to allow other singles to feel comfortable and bold in sharing their faith or sharing whatever they're struggling with, their testimonies, and just, again, different topics that, I feel like a lot of us don't get the place to have um, conversations about. So that's kind of the goal, is to just provide a space for other singles to come on and let's have a discussion. Let's have a bold discussion about, well, not whatever you want to talk about, but, you know, within the realm of being a single Christian, appropriate conversation, but bold still. And so, yeah, if that is you, if you want to sit down and have a convo, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to talk about. So please reach out to me. I actually have a new email address that I am going to put in the show notes, but I will also um, say now, and that is Tiffany at an epiphany with Tiffany.com. So if you want to email me there, or also you can reach out on socials. The majority of them are now at an epiphany with Tiffany. The only one that is still an epiph with Tiff is X, because I can't change that one. So that's the only one that's still that old. My goodness, old handle. So all of my new handles for Instagram, TikTok, Threads is An Epiphany with Tiffany, which is obviously the name of my podcast, so that should be pretty easy to remember. But yeah, if you want to sit down and have a conversation, definitely reach out, and I cannot wait to get moving on some of these other episodes that I already have planned with a few people. And yeah, just pray for me, definitely. And the struggle can be real. But I just, I'm excited. I'm extremely happy, and I cannot wait to see what God does. Um, so yeah, I hope you found a little bit of inspiration, maybe some relatability, or just a reminder that growth is messy but beautiful. And yeah, just thanks for celebrating my birthday week with me and my birthday. I definitely could not do this without you, my lovely Epiphany tribe. And yeah, be on the lookout. Follow me on socials, because I have some other really cool announcements coming. And I mean, I guess I could just say it now. Please hold. Announcement. So I have new merch, and I am currently working on a devotional that I am trying to get out by the end of this week. So we will see. I might actually only get the sample 7 days out, but yeah, again, just follow me on social media and we will all be surprised together. But be paying attention to tomorrow, Friday. Um, November 14th, because that is when I'm going to be dropping my merch. So, yes. But anyway, again, I just love you guys so much, and thank you for being on this journey with me. And I hope you just had an epiphany. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the stories and the perspectives that were shared in this episode. Please share it with a friend whose dating life might need some help. Wink, wink. If you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at an epiph with Tiff. I really hope to see you there. There are multiple ways that you can support my show. You can pray for me, rate, review, and share any episode that you love. Or you can even financially contribute by going to patreon.com/an epiphany with Tiffany. Until next time, I'm Tiffany, and I hope you just had an epiphany.